You know, a big reason why the American system's so bad now is because the founding forefathers, this is what really should have happened. I would like to see an alternate history where the South is its own country and the North, they should have just let them win the Civil War and say, okay, you just keep your own. I would really like to see how things would have panned out like that, because there's so much resources in keeping the South in, and the South doesn't want to be there, and they keep voting in retribution against the. It's always back to this. It's just you are a different country. You should be two different countries. You shouldn't keep this together. It's not working. They want to be separate, and even when they were coming up with the Declaration of Independence, all the things that they came up with, like the college vote and making sure that there was all these checks and balances that makes it impossible to do anything. That was all ceding things to the southern states so that they would stay in for that. And the founding forefathers, as much as Americans are taught that the founding forefathers were perfect and they had all these great ideas, they themselves are admitting this is a bad system that we set up, and we hope that in the future someone will come along and correct it. Really? And no one did. Really? And the way that didn't is because they had to come up with so many padlocks to keep that system the way that it is. That it's maintained itself. I see. So I was telling you about the Electoral College thing, because the Electoral College thing is ridiculous. That is one of the worst democratic systems that you could ever have. So you're saying that was a concession to the South? That's why they put that in? They put that in there. Just to be like, you can win. Because the South very quickly realised we're going to be outnumbered. And we need to keep like an equal foothold in this. And they said, okay, so we'll make sure that the president isn't elected on who gets the most votes. We'll make it on who gets the most college votes. And so that was stupid. And they knew it was stupid at the time.
And Democrats thought they mean people going to college.
What? Yeah, why are they called college votes?
I don't know.
What is that?
Electoral college? I have no idea.
In Nixon's time, there was this big movement to get rid of the Electoral College. And you had 3/4 of the state saying we're willing to get rid of it, which is already such a high bar to change something. You need 3/4 of the states. And there's so many states now. There was like 5 when it was set up. Now there's 50. It's so hard to do. And then now you've got that. You've got President Nixon saying, yeah, let's get this through. You had Congress saying, yes, let's get this through. You had the broad public support for it, which you wouldn't have now. And it came down to, because this is part of the Constitution as well, it needs to be ratified by, I think it was one of those ones that has to be ratified by 60 Senate votes. And there was a few Southern senators that realised we're screwed if this happens. And so because of a handful of senators, they didn't get rid of the Electoral College. They were able to outnumber pretty much every institution in America wanting it to change.
Almost by an Electoral College.
They just couldn't overcome that old man with double chin saying, this will lead to tyranny.
And look, if anybody is to do that, I'm glad that it's him.
Mitch McConnell is
like a guy with a cowboy hat with whatever that tie is that has the little cow on it.
It's not a tie. It's like, I don't know what they are, but There's little
I'm glad
things.
It's him. I'm glad it's him.
I think that is to like tuck in your double chin. That's the purpose of it. He's like,
well, sure.
Put it over here.
Yeah, it's true. It eliminates one of the chins. But it makes it look like neck.
Practically, it would be difficult, right? Because it would just be like, who would win in that in terms of even natural resources?
What?
Like, would...
Oh, the North.
So would, what's it called? The one next to, like, Russia, basically... Would Alaska, that'd be north, obviously.
I mean, that's as north as it gets.
But like the North would win, really, in terms of resources, everything, wouldn't they?
Well, they did.
Totally. They did win because of their resources.
Right.
Obviously,
and
the
their industry.
Part.
So, like, what would the advantage be for the South? None?
Well, I mean, they'd get to keep their slaves, but I think that at some point, technological advancement would have made them redundant anyway. Yeah. That's the other thing. I think that
I'm talking about today, though.
Huh?
If this happened.
I actually saw a documentary recently about that, and like, there was this... this is from the 60s in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And this guy, he's just lamenting about like, everyone keeps saying that life was difficult back in the day, but I can tell you we had 57 families working on our farms. They might have been slaves, but their life was not as bad. Now, it is true that with mechanization, instead of 47 families, I now have 15 people working on it, and machines are doing most of the work. But I still say that was a good time.
Why?
Yeah, people say that.
The machines are...
Did people say that all the time?
They're like, deal with uprisings, probably negotiations that you would have had to make
Dude,
with the
they
slaves
claim,
anyway.
but that's the thing. Like, I would imagine too that they'd have to deal with uprisings because you're literally keeping slaves. But they pretend that, like, dude, the slaves were happy. Like, they were just chilling, and then all of a sudden we were like, now you have to be on your own, and they were like, oh, but master, what am I going? Like, that's the picture that they paint. The
There is a lot
Southerners.
of that.
I reckon there's probably some truth to it in the sense that there were probably some slave owners that were pretty good.
I mean,
and
they
were
say-
probably not. And then
Well,
like
yeah.
being,
Yeah, I mean-
you know, it's kind of the same
Yeah.
thing when you think about being in prison and you think, no Joe, free electricity,
No taxes.
no taxes,
Just free food.
free food.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, they say
Exercise at a free gym.
they do say that like after slavery was abolished, like for at least, I mean, some would argue net till now, but like for 10 years it was like much worse.
Well,
For the
okay,
slaves,
let's
for the
not
slaves.
get canceled. It wasn't much worse.
Oh, maybe
It
not
was
much
like-
worse, but they said
But
it
you
was
know,
like
it actually-
systemically difficult. Like it was just kind of like, I'm looking for a job. It's like no job. It didn't really abolish slavery. is what
I
I'm saying.
remember this.
Do you know what I
No, it wouldn't have.
It
No, but what I'm
abolished
saying
it
is
in
like,
name,
and so
didn't it?
like I think that they're making a selected picture where they're saying these
abolished it in
farmers
name.
treated their slaves really well, and they're focusing on those farmers.
Yeah,
where there
yeah.
would have been other ones that would have
Just-
treated them like dog shit.
It's just,
Would
yeah,
have-
it's like
you know, would have been
systemically it
fine.
would be
I
difficult.
remember reading
yeah.
this, and it should explain, I guess, some of it, which is that the N word as a slur was used post Civil War. So before that, the N word was used amongst black communities as just like their way of lingo or whatever. And then, man, I don't know how true this is because like I don't want to get canceled because this is a really touchy subject and I'm not an American. I don't know enough about it. But this particular book was arguing that the N word was used before, but it didn't have it didn't have as racist
have a brutal
connotation,
connotation to it, yeah.
It was only after the Civil War, when the slaves were technically freed, is that the white community started thinking that the government has said that they're equal to us, which they're not. And then they started subjecting them to like some serious racism, including lynches, and the N-word became more intense. Now, I don't know if this is true because I have seen Django and that was pre-Civil War and there was a lot of N-word being used. So don't lynch me, okay, please.
Get him.
Look, to enforce that where you could have fair voting, that did happen, I think, in the 1800s. There was fair voting, and very quickly the South realised we're getting outnumbered here, so they started rigging voting hard. But the American North used to enforce with a bunch of troops to make sure that elections were fair.
Right.
And then at some point, it got too expensive and they had to move out anyway.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I just think, really, on the balance of things, all I'm saying is it would be an interesting experiment to see an alternate reality
Yeah.
where the
it would
South remained the South and the North remained the North.
That would be
And I
very
think,
interesting.
honestly, on the balance of everything, like when you fast forward to now, probably the world would be at a better position.
Yeah, but like you can't say that because slavery.
What?
Like if South had remained the South, then slavery would be a thing, and that would make it not okay.
But at some point,
They would have abolished
had
it.
to
They would have
moved
abolished it.
on.
You-
Like
yeah,
they had to.
definitely, definitely.
I look again because it's an alternate history. We won't ever know. But I highly doubt that there would still be slaves there.
But that was their like entire thing. I understand that at some point they would have abolished it, but it would have taken a long time because that was the focal point of who they were.
Yeah.
So
But
like
I'm talking pre-Civil War here. I'm talking, and I'd like to see how those nations would have forged and if they would have been different as well. I'm talking about the foundation of the United States. If the northern states said, you know what, screw it, you're not worth the effort. We'll make our own country.
I reckon they would have been like Argentina or Brazil, which is like just a poor white country. Their entire thing not only was slaves, but it was also that we're going to specialize in agriculture and not focus on industries as much.
Exactly.
And that would have led them to like just being a resource economy.
Yep.
And it would just be like a second worldwide country. Like North would be richer than them.
Yeah,
way
for sure.
richer.
For
Forever.
sure.
Way
Yeah.
richer. And I think probably wouldn't be seeing the demise of the United States as a whole. That's the other big thing.
Well, you'd be
I think
seeing
there would have been way better electoral decisions that were made along the way. I think it would probably get to the point where the South would be a bit like Mexico, where it's like, why we can't even have a war with this country. It's so
Right.
advanced.
Right.
Don't you think like the North would have just invaded the South?
Well, I mean, they didn't do it to Mexico.
Yeah,
So
but
I think it would've been the
Mexico
same
was
thing.
like ethnically different to them as well. Like
Don't you think that this...
They
The
are.
South is it just is.
It is a different world.
It's a different
Do,
world.
do those lines already exist? Like exactly, like if they were to draw that now, I'm wondering what would constitute South and what would constitute North. Is Ohio
I'm
in the
also
South?
wondering that too, because I
Virginia,
think that
is
a lot of
Virginia
other,
the North? Because
No.
West, that's South.
I
Virginia.
think West is. I don't know.
Okay,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I don't exactly know where the lines are, but again, having no education on this at all, I also think that the North would probably be bigger now, precisely because of what you're talking about. Where, for instance, America just said this half of Mexico is now America. And they're like, but it's Mexico. Like, not anymore. It's New Mexico.
Which, by
That
the
was
way, they
it.
did as well. Like Mexico was way bigger than what it is now.
Mexico
America
used to
just
be
took
So that's what I'm
on.
saying. Like the South would have been of what it is now. It probably would have been much smaller.
Oh,
Probably a
right.
much smaller country, and the North would be a lot bigger.
Right.
I think that the world would be a better place today.
Because it seems
Really
like
do.
there is still a lot of this divide culturally, and like a lot of the South states, it's like protest voting, where they're like, we're just going to screw with you. We want someone. There's cultural divides are still there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
It's
I can
not change.
No.
I swear, in everything except name, it is a different country. Don't you reckon?
I think so.
So different to the rest of them. It's a
If
completely different mentality.
yeah.
It's a completely different lifestyle. It's a completely
Yeah.
different geography.
Yes.
Hey, if the South separates from the U.S., WA is also going its own way.
WA.
They're not doing that. We're keeping them.
They're not going to survive.